Alright guys, so today we'll be reacting to a Jack Tran video about how the economics of the Yakuza mini documentary. This guy, he has like some cool, little videos. I just want to watch it. Enjoy.
You ain't boss like Luggy the Great. You ain't cool like Luggy the Great. Getting hoes like Luggy the Great. You a snitch, my nigga, and that's a mistake. You ain't boss like Luggy the Great. Getting hoes like Luggy the Great. You ain't cool like Luggy the Great.
Alright, so what do we have here? Who is this guy? Let's see.
This video was brought to you by Manscaped. So you're a young guy growing up in the very strict and rigid society of Japan. A society that values the family more than the individual. A society with an extremely competitive school system where not having a steady job or not being part of an upstanding family, figuratively and literally, can ruin your life and make you a forever outcast. You happen to have none of those things. Maybe you live alone, lost one or both of your parents, dropped out of school, and now no one wants to hire you. It seems like the entire country looks at you as subhuman, so it looks like you're gonna have to spend the rest of your life as an outcast. But then you come across the Yakuza, Japan's organized crime syndicates. Although they're looked down upon, they all happen to be social outcasts just like you. They offer structure, a surrogate family, a way for you to climb up the ranks of society, albeit in a more nefarious way. Successful gangsters are able to provide their kids with a first-class upbringing. And much like other organized crime groups around the world like the Mafia, being a Yakuza means that the same society that looked down upon you would now have to bow down to you in fear and submission. So Yakuza, here we come! When do I get my full body tattoo? Wait, hold on a sec. If you think that you're just gonna jump into this world and start living the stereotypical gangster life with samurai swords and cutting off fingers, etc., you're gonna be sadly mistaken. Today's Yakuza are far from the romanticized Yakuza you see in movies. Sure, a ton of that still goes on, but today's Yakuza have grown much more sophisticated. Instead of just gangsters, the smart ones are now economic gangsters, or Keizai Yakuza. Instead of your typical rackets like extortion, gambling, drug dealing, which still very much happens, they've catapulted themselves into the world of high finance, legitimate businesses, the stock market, real estate investments, multinational corporations. Think of the modern day Yakuza.
That's low-key how I'm trying to be like, but legally, you know what I mean? Legally.
Yakuza as a giant hedge fund with over $100 billion to play with. They're involved in virtually every sort of activity an investment bank or security firm does. Investing in startups, mergers and acquisitions, IPOs, forex trading, distressed companies, and real estate with their more nefarious activities never far behind. They're helped by Japan's top professionals, accountants, lawyers, financial advisors, all wanting a piece of that Yakuza money. It's so bad that crime experts call it the criminal services industry. They also have some very substantial political power with even their own offices that were open as late as 2017. Even though Japan has more than enough anti-racketeering and money laundering statutes to go around, the Yakuza have a remarkable love and hate relationship with the public not really found in any other gangs around the world. The general consensus is that if they don't cause chaos, the Japanese people will leave them alone, and average people will sometimes even do business with them. This is the new Yakuza you'll be entering, and if you want to make it out on top, if you want to make it out alive, you're gonna have to understand the economics of the Yakuza. The hardest thing for Westerners to understand is that the Yakuza are generally accepted by society, and are even viewed as a somewhat quasi-legitimate organization. We'll go deeper into this later, but it's because of their deep history and relationship with Japan. Because of their acceptance or tolerance by society, the Yakuza have been able to grow almost unchecked and touch virtually every single corner of Japanese life. That's why the Yakuza have over 100,000 members and associates worldwide.
Man, sometimes you just gotta appreciate acting. You know what I mean? People just know how to act. Like when you look at this scene right here. Yeah, like this scene is just lit. These are regular people, but they're acting as if they're like a gang member. Who knows?
History and relationship with Japan. Because of their acceptance or tolerance by society, the Yakuza have been able to grow almost unchecked and touch virtually every single corner of Japanese life. That's why the Yakuza have over 100,000 members and associates worldwide. Since organized crime is looked at as something to be exterminated in the US, the American Mafia purposely kept only around 5,000 official members at their height to stay within the shadows, with many more associates around the country. And in this video, we're mainly gonna focus on the biggest Yakuza family.
Yo, let's just take a moment to appreciate this YouTuber Jake Tran for, you know, finding out all this information. Like, this is lit, and it's well made too. Shout out to you, man.
The legendary Yamaguchi Gumi, which boasts around 55,000 gangsters divided into 850 clans, accounting for half of all Yakuza. There are other crime families that vary in some ways, but they mostly pale in comparison to the Yamaguchi Gumi, which is practically a household name in Japan. There are a lot of Yakuza back in the day that cared about things like honor, chivalry, and viewed themselves as modern-day samurai, but at the end of the day, the organization's only purpose is to make money, and make money they do. On top of the more sophisticated rackets they have going on that we mentioned earlier, the Yakuza basically do business in everything Japanese people want.
Yo, why are they so thirsty? God damn. Like, relax.
But can't get. Think about them as sort of a department store for the underworld, as one cop put it.
Hello there. Good evening,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi.
It's Christine here coming
Yeah,
to you
thank you.
from
Yeah.
From 1978 to 1982, the Yakuza families controlled over 24,000 legitimate businesses. They control the ports, construction jobs, they do what's called labor brokering, where they gather up otherwise useless, uneducated men and sell them as cheap, docile labor. They have a long-standing monopoly on street-style operators and peddlers, which each make around $1,000 per day. They control a lot of the illegal and legal gambling. They openly host political parties for candidates that they work with. Some of them even work as aides on their political campaigns. They have interest in professional sports like boxing, sumo wrestling, western wrestling. They have interest in the entertainment business with around 100 or so production companies, talent agencies, booking firms, movie studios. While of course being involved in all the typical rackets like loan sharking, collecting protection money from local businesses, running nightclubs and brothels, with one of their biggest money makers of all time being selling meth. But if you thought that was it, you're sadly mistaken, because there are plenty of more ways that Yakuza make money. Sex trafficking is a big one, public construction projects like subways and airports, bringing
What happened? He's like,
money. Sex trafficking is a big one. Public construction projects like subways and airports, rigging baseball games, horse races, auctions, seizing control of private hospitals, English schools, amusement halls, counterfeiting money and other goods, waste disposal, offering security services, smuggling guns into the country, which is a very profitable one, and much, much more. As one expert put it, the Yamaguchi had perfected the art of converting violence into money. And behind this very well-oiled machine is a very strict organizational structure that reflects the very same rigid structure of Japanese culture. The Yamaguchi Gumi is structured kinda like the American Mafia with some key differences and a lot more moving parts. It's a very centralized pyramid structure that acts very much like a corporation. There's a dedicated godfather or CEO at the top with around 850 clans at the bottom. In the case of the Yamaguchi Gumi, the most famous boss was Kazuo Taoka, nicknamed the Japanese Godfather or Japan's version of the boss of all bosses. Taoka was the third boss of the family and was known for being very innovative to keep up with Japan's rapidly changing economy, while also keeping the traditions that made the Yakuza what it was. One of the main differences between the Yakuza and other crime organizations like the Mafia is the Oyaben-Kuben relationship, which literally translates to father world, child world. The Oyaben is the father figure and the Koben's only parents. They offer advice, help, protection, guidance, and in return the Koben or child gives unwavering loyalty back to the father. There's nothing really like this in the West. Think of it as an extreme mentor-mentee relationship where you're formally initiated into a literal new family. If your Oyaben asks you to cross a busy street, you'll enthusiastically do it without thinking twice. Kobens are the ones that stand at the front of the firing line, risking their own lives first and even taking the fall for crimes. The Oyaben-Koben relationship isn't just a Yakuza thing either, even though they're the ones that take it the most seriously. It was a reflection of Japanese culture at the time and is still prevalent today. There are Oyaben-Koben relationships for teachers and apprentices, lords and vassals, bosses and followers. And in the Yakuza, the Godfather is the ultimate surrogate father figure that guides the way for those poor, lost social outcasts. The Godfather is part of the upper management that make all the big decisions, just like a corporation. Below the Godfather are 4 younger brothers of the Godfather or Shete, along with 8 young assistant directors or Wakashira Hosa, with one of those directors assigned as the young leader or Wakashira, and the rest of the upper management is made up of 6 senior consultants, which resemble the Mafia's consigliaries if you watch our video on the American Mafia. And then there's the grunts of the syndicate that do all the dirty work and run all the gang's different money-making operations. There's one COO executive type figure called the Kiembu Atsukai, and then there's 82 young men or captains called Wakashu that each run their own gang or clan of children called Kobun, or enlisted men called Kumiin. And at the very bottom are apprentices and people that are loosely associated with the gang that make up the rest. And the Oyuban-Koban father-child relationship is present from the bottom of the pyramid all the way to the top. Maybe your crew's captain is your Oyuban, with you still viewing the Godfather as the ultimate Oyuban. So now that you know how your new family is structured, let's follow the money from the bottom up to see what kind of salary your new profession is gonna bring you.
Where is the money?
Where's the money?
By the time our Japanese godfather died in 1981, the Yamaguchi-gumi was bringing in well over $460 million annually, or over $1.3 billion in today's money.
The whole world is focused on China right now, but what if I told you there was a little known Chinese technology?
Because the Yakuza are so integrated into society, they're very open about their numbers to researchers and the press, making the Yakuza one of the most well-researched syndicates out there. And like corporations, the major gangs and upper management even issue annual financial reports. Thanks to an interview with the boss in 1984, starting at the bottom, a typical Yakuza soldier will only make around $27,000 per year, about the same as the average salary worker in Japan. Medium-rank bosses will make around $130,000 per year, and godfathers will make around $400,000 per year, or around $1 million in today's money. But it all comes down to how many men you have under you. The more men you have under your syndicate, the more business you're able to conduct, and all that money moves up the chain of command, with the majority of it going straight to you. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Jake, only $27,000 starting out? Why don't I just get a regular job? Well, as we mentioned earlier, if you weren't a social outcast and could get a job, you probably wouldn't be thinking about joining the Yakuza. And besides, treat this as a learning period, an internship as you learn the culture, the norms, how to move up the ranks, and ultimately how to make the family more money. Because if you want to make more money for yourself, you have to provide more money. Speaking of the rules, the culture, the norms, let's cover that next. Like other criminal organizations, the Yakuza have some very unwritten rules that must be followed, or else you're going to face some very dire consequences. Coincidentally, even though all the major crime syndicates form independently across the globe, they all clustered around pretty much the same rules. Number 1, never reveal the secrets of the Yakuza. Number 2, never violate the wife or children of other members. Number 3, no narcotics with the exception of the Yamaguchi-gumi. Number 4, no withholding money from the family. Number 5, always be obedient to your superiors. And number 6, don't appeal to the police or the law. If you make a bad but not the end of the world offense, this is where finger cutting comes in. This practice dates all the way back to the sword fighting days of feudal Japan. The first offense, you would cut your pinky finger at the first joint with a traditional tanto knife. You then wrap it up in a cloth and present it to your boss. In sword fighting, your pinky provides a lot of strength to your sword, so cutting off your pinky makes you rely more on your boss for protection, ideally making you more obedient to him. After the first offense, you'll cut the next joint of your pinky off, and then you move on to the next finger. Many bosses will preserve the cut fingers in jars to show the gang what will happen if you disobey. For worse offenses, you'll cut off your finger and be exiled from the gang and other gangs as well, and maybe throw in some murders here and there for really bad offenses. Interestingly, finger cutting has increased since the feudal times, with a whopping 45% of modern Yakuza members having severed fingers in 1993. And of course, we can't talk about the Yakuza without talking about their trademark tattoos. Tattoos date back to the feudal era, where authorities would use them to mark outlaws and ostracize them from society. The elaborate artistic designs date back even further, as early as the 3rd century. And as society viewed tattoos as more and more taboo, our outcast Yakuza embraced it as a self-inflicted wound that would forever distinguish them from the world that shunned them out. Traditional tattoos are also extremely painful. The artist uses a stick with a bunch of needles at the end and hammers the ink into your skin. A full back tattoo alone can take as much as 100 hours. That's why the Yakuza also view tattoos as a sign of toughness and masculinity. The more tattooed they are, the more pain they had to endure. Although Yakuza are selling for more modern tattooing techniques these days, some still do it to earn that badge of honor. But the question still remains. Japan is known to have the best cops and a very low crime rate. So how are over 100,000 gangsters able to thrive? Why do police notify Yakuza before a raid so they have time to hide the contraband and escape? Why are gangs able to hold press conferences to apologize to the public and police for the turf wars without getting arrested on the spot? To understand this, we have to travel back in time to feudal Japan. Back in feudal Japan, the bosses of construction projects needed a lot of workers, serfs, to do the grunt work. That labor costed a fair amount of money, so these bosses hired gamblers to gamble with their construction workers to win the boss's money back while taking a cut. You have to admit, that's pretty clever.
Are you looking to make passive income publishing audiobooks on Amazon? You
No.
see, these are my last 6 months of royal.
These gamblers got together into bands to help each other out and form the basis of organized crime in Japan, along with many of the traditions we talked about earlier: finger cutting, tattoos, the word Yakuza, and the long-standing business of gambling.
Asians love gambling.
These gangs started working with authorities early on and started the tradition of government corruption. These gangs were kind of like an underworld mutual aid society. They helped out fellow traveling gamblers, which grew into the folklore of the compassionate Yakuza outlaws that society had no use for, but who stood up for the common man. This was also the era of the samurai, which the Yakuza identify with today. As Japan ended feudalism with democracy and industry, these Yakuza gangs adjusted to the modernizing economy. This is when we got a lot of the basic rackets we see today: labor brokering, controlling streetcars, legitimate business fronts, and when they started paying off police. And with the introduction of democracy, the Yakuza viewed it as a threat to their way of life and business, so they naturally aligned themselves with the far-right politicians called the ultra-nationalists. This extreme group wanted to go back to the feudal ways of worshipping the emperor and warlords and oppose everything democratic, socialist, or communist. The Yakuza served as political muscle, assassins, bodyguards, intimidating voters, and were so integrated with the ultra-nationalists that even today it's hard to tell them apart at times. And everything leading up to this point has contributed to why the Yakuza is viewed as a somewhat legitimate part of society. They met the need of people wanting to gamble, they were heavily involved with the economy as it started modernizing, and the government has always worked with them to some extent since the old days. By the end of World War II, Japan was occupied by the US and put all of their energy into skyrocketing the economy. More economic change meant more ways for the Yakuza to make money, and from there, they started consolidating into bigger and bigger families, including the Yamaguchi-gumi. As the country started to prosper, so did the gangs by transitioning from controlling necessities to controlling the luxuries we talked about earlier: drugs, prostitution, entertainment, etc. They also started getting more violent and continued to dig their teeth deeper and deeper into politics. The Yakuza helped make or break politicians' careers, and in return, they got political access and favors. This is the period where the Yakuza made what I call their seed money, the money that would be needed for them to go international and turn them into economic gangsters later on. That happened in the 60s and 70s when the Yakuza started expanding all over Asia and in pretty much every nation where there were business opportunities, with a focus on the meth and sex trade. However, the golden years of the Yakuza were right around the corner with the great bubble economy of Japan from 1986 to 1991. By now, the Yakuza were already sitting on piles and piles of cash, and as the economy skyrocketed, they basically threw their money into every single possible investment: legitimate corporations, real estate, stocks, etc. After the bubble burst, the money stopped coming in. Countless of scandals came out showing how entangled they were with society, and they had to go back to the basics with handling bankruptcy cases, public work contracts, etc. And through all of this, because of the history of the Yakuza, the police realized that they're never gonna get rid of organized crime, and that maybe, just maybe, it's better to contain organized crime instead of putting up with unorganized crime.
Yeah.
Which brings us to today. The old Yakuza are fading out and the new generation are much more violent. They care less about chivalry, honor, traditions, and only really care about money. They came out of the bubble with assets and priceless business experience. But not all is well in the Yakuza world. The open violence seems to be slowly breaking down the harmony they once had with the public. But not all is lost. From the end of feudalism to today, the Yakuza have managed to become one of the most sophisticated international crime syndicates in the world. They've grown the last 300 years, and as long as there's illicit profits to be made, they'll probably be here for another 300.
Wow.
So if you're gonna join the Yakuza, you're probably gonna want to get your own full body tattoo to show off your strength and to fit in with your new family. To get tattooed, you're gonna need to get rid of all that disgusting hair on your body and below your waist. Yes, some Yakuza even get tattooed down there. Don't ask me how. This is where Manscaped comes in. Their new Perfect Package 3.0 manscaping kit makes trimming off all that disgusting body hair safe and easy without running into pain.
Wow, this guy really just transitioned. He just made an ad right there, bro. Peep that game, bro. This is top tier promotion right here.
Full body tattoo to show off your strength and to fit in with your new family. To get tattooed, you're gonna need to get rid of all that disgusting hair on your body and below your.
You see that? You see that? This guy's smart. He's smart.
Your waist. Yes, some Yakuza even get tattooed down there. Don't ask me how. This is where Manscaped comes in. Their new Perfect Package 3.0 manscaping kit makes trimming off all that disgusting body hair safe and easy without running into painful nicks and cuts down there. This is thanks to their new Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof body trimmer.
have to watch
It
it
features
now.
their advanced skin-safe technology, anti-tug adjustable trimmer guards, replaceable ceramic trimmer blades, a 7,000 RPM motor with their quiet stroke technology, a 600 mAh battery that charges via USB, and a very convenient built-in LED light for closer, more precise trimming. And you can get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code TRAN20 with your Perfect Package 3.0 purchase with the link below or at manscaped.com. So confidently clean yourself up down there and support the brands that help make mini documentaries like this one possible. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping with the code TRAN20 with the link below. If you are still watching this right now, do me a quick favor, go in the comments below and just write out "I watched to the very end" and click send. It will give the YouTube algorithm a nice little boost, and it really does help out a ton. And for crying out loud, if you're all the way through this video and you're still not subscribed, what the heck? You get free videos like this every single week that you can dislike and unsubscribe from whenever you want. So yeah, subscribe and notification bell below. When I was researching this video, literally every single documentary, all they talked about were the tattoos. I mean, the tattoos are cool and all, but like, there's a lot more to it. So I hope that this little mini documentary did it for you guys. You learned about the
Guys, this guy is pretty crazy. You know what I'm gonna do? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna like, you know, just like how you should like your boy over here. I'm already subscribed to him. You know what? You gotta support. I watched to the very end. Yeah. Okay, guys. This is a pretty simple video. Nothing too crazy. I just wanted to show you guys this dude named Jake Tran. He's pretty lit. That was a pretty nice video. I'm gonna do more skits if you guys want to see more skits from my homeboy Lukeman. Go follow his YouTube channel, Nino Panjam.
Hey, hey, you ain't boss like Luggy the Great. You ain't cool like Luggy the Great. Getting hoes like Luggy the Great. You a snitch, my nigga, and that's a mistake. You ain't boss like Luggy the Great. Getting hoes like Luggy the Great. You ain't cool like Luggy the Great. You ain't important, that's why you niggas like to hate. You a snitch, not gonna lie. My shit is certified. My click can pack a punch, you shoot, not gonna hide. The bass is my new booth. That space ain't meant for you. I risk for shit I rep. That risk can lead to death. What the fuck you think you got on me? I'm an XVOZ commander, fading you phonies. I'ma make sure I'm the last standing and forever the only.